Um, now you all know this meeting is being recorded. My cat likes to put its paw in my drinking water during every meeting I have. At the board meeting the other night, on Monday night, she put her paw in. I was laughing, while we're having the board meeting, I'm thinking how cute she is, just sticking her paw in and drinking out of the glass. And then I went on with the board meeting, and near the end of the board meeting, I found myself with an empty glass in my hand because I just finished drinking the rest of the water. So I'm putting my glass far away and will remain. Yeah, there you go. Perfect use of the emoji. Thank you. Okay, so for those of you who I have not yet met or who haven't been on one of these forums, my name is Melissa Goff and I am the superintendent. This is my second year here in Greater Albany. I've really enjoyed being here. It has been a very interesting year, or 2 years, year and a half. I've lost track of time. It's been a really interesting time period where I've learned a lot and have been extremely happy to be serving this community during this time. It has been a real privilege, and I'm really glad to be here. And I couldn't do it without the partnership of Lisa Harlan, who will introduce herself.
My name is Lisa Harlan, and I serve as the assistant superintendent here in Albany. This is my third year working for the district, but I've lived in this community for more than 15 years. I have two children in the system. Actually, one graduated and is a sophomore in college now. And then I have another, my youngest is my son, and he is a sophomore in high school right now. And so both of my kids have attended, gone up through Albany schools, elementary and middle and high school, and we're getting close to the end of that journey. So it's just been a real privilege to serve a community that has really served my kids and my family really well. And so many of you I know through the district, but also from wet spring soccer games and all of the kind of events that you have as your kids get older. So thanks for joining us tonight. I know those nighttime hours kind of with kids and time is just so precious anyway. So I appreciate you spending some of it with us, because I know there's just not enough of it ever, but particularly these days. So.
I did not mention my children, which is what happens, I guess, when they graduate and move on. So I have an older daughter who lives here in Albany, works at a vet clinic here in town. And then I have a younger daughter who's a sophomore at University of Oregon. And she just moved into her apartment a few weeks ago down in Eugene because she needed to get into an apartment for her all online courses. So that tells you how hard it is on a family when mom is working from home a lot and daughter is a sophomore in college. So so she is happy, and that's fantastic. So the only thing that might interrupt us tonight is my cat walking behind my head, and so don't get distracted by her. And we are really excited to answer the questions that you do have. I did want to say, while we're getting we'd like to get the chat front loaded a little bit, because we get caught up to the chat and then we just sit here looking at each other all day and it's not very fun. So so quickly, I wanted to let you know that we are going to start sending surveys home to you as parents, and your kids will be getting them to fill out on Wednesdays. The surveys run on a variety of topics. It's the same survey. You'll get that survey, though, multiple times between now and the end of the calendar year, and you'll get it after the first of the year as well. But they're really designed to help inform how things are going with distance learning. And when we move into a more hybrid model, you'll continue with the same survey questions. They'll ask questions of your children, things such as how are classes going? Do you understand your assignments? Do you have too much work? Do you have not enough work? How is your technology? Are you finding it difficult to have constant internet constant internet connection? Do you have friends at school? Do you have at least one person at the school, one teacher who you know cares about you and is connected with you? And yes, and they'll go out to all students. So regardless of what program the students are in. So those are kind of the student questions. When they get to and that's not tons of questions. I mean, I've probably almost covered all of them in what I just summarized for you. Parents get similar questions, but a little bit different takes. So things such as, my child's excited to go to get online every day, or my child really doesn't even want to get up and turn on their computer. Things such as, I understand what resources are available to my family and how to access them. And then lists certain resources such as finding out more information about childcare, about nutrition services, or various other mental health resources. So parents will have a little more specificity that is just more appropriate for parents to have, but nothing that should take very much time, and they're not really open-ended questions, so they should be fairly easy to answer. You will get the survey data back. When we get it back, you get it back, and it will all be public facing. And the goal of that survey data is just to help us improve our service delivery to students and to families. And teachers are also surveyed, and building principals are surveyed as well. But to help us have a way to gauge that we're constantly improving what's happening in the delivery of services. So I think, yes, Lisa, I saw this. All right, you go. Lisa's about to start reading.
I started answering back in the chat too. Okay, so our first, it says GAPS has been doing well with everything. The only thing I've been concerned about is the kids' time to just interact with each other. They really get no time to just talk with each other about kid things or whatever they want to talk about. They get almost no social interaction with each other. Sometimes they go to breakout rooms, but they only get to talk about the book they're reading. The first 10 minutes of the day are supposed to be social time, but usually that does not happen. Our elementary school is working on times for them to interact, but I think it should come from GAP so that it is clear that the children need this. So
you go. Asking and answering both. You got it.
One of the things we've been talking about actually at all levels was just exactly this, how kids, you might in class or in the hallway, how you would have those interactions, or really in thinking about, could you imagine being a new kiddo to the system? How do you make friends? It's really difficult in this environment. So setting up rooms, breakout rooms for kids, even by interest, right? Like at the elementary level, it could be as simple as like, who's interested in these things or these type of games or these hobbies. But to be able to do some of those things more than once a week, I do know that some of the elementaries have started on Wednesdays doing kind of those interest-based breakout rooms, but just exactly for that reason, so that kids can have some social interaction, can kind of just talk about things that are interesting to them, and to be able to have, I know it's not as natural as like you would just walking down the hall or as it would come up in a classroom, but we've seen that kind of need K-12, and trying to figure out ways to incorporate that more, not only throughout the day, but really to just provide time for them to build some friendships, right? And some connection. So I appreciate that, because that is something we've definitely seen. Okay, I'll read the next one and you can answer.
Okay.
Lynn says, 6th grade parent. We've been getting the grade reports this week. Can we get the updated weekly reports on Tuesdays instead of Thursdays, which would give the students Wednesdays to catch up on missed work?
That is strategically a very smart move, and we will talk to the middle school team about doing that. So I think we may have one or more of the administrators on, but we'll be sure to talk to them about focusing on Tuesdays. That's makes perfect sense. Yep.
And I lied because I think I already answered that one in the chat.
You lied?
I mean, I lied about you.
Oh, did I answer it like you would?
So Chelsea asks, did IT figure out a way to enable the on-screen notifications for student reminders on Chromebooks? Last week, they said they would look into it. That feature would be super helpful to my kids. Did they figure out a way to enable the on-screen notifications for student reminders? I do not think they did.
I
I
do
asked
not either.
a similar question, functionality, and I think it was today or yesterday. So I can look back into it, but I do not think they did. And I think it's related to some of the other either functions that they have limited on Chromebooks that are out to kids. I know another question we've gotten that we have kind of struggled with because teachers use YouTube for different kind of instructional videos and clips. And some parents have asked, is there a way that we can block YouTube on the Chromebooks because my kiddo is watching YouTube videos instead of doing their work. And that's difficult because it's used educationally too. And so the best way that I would advise parents is actually through their wireless, through their internet at home for either certain types of things or certain times of day. So Chelsea, I will look into it again, but I do not think they have.
So I already answered Jennifer Sullivan's question about surveys going to AOL students. They will be. And then Chelsea has the next questions as well. Are kinder and first still getting iPads or going to just use Chromebooks for the year? I know you answered this in the chat, Lisa. Can they have a choice if they prefer one over the other?
So they're getting Chrome pads, which function as a Chromebook, but have a tablet feature as well. So they're actually better than Chromebooks. And part of the reason we ask that they use those for K1 specifically is for things like writing, letter formation. It allows them to do things on the actual Chrome pad. And so we would ask that they trade them in because some of the work we would be having them do, they will need. And Shannon says, I would love to talk about the middle schoolers that have music or any other class during asynchronous learning. They don't have the afternoon time to work on the assignments and end up on the computer doing school from 8:45 until 7 p.m. or later trying to get it all done.
Wow. I appreciate that, Shannon. And actually one of the things we have been engaging in is this review of the schedules to see how things are working for students and staff. What is it? Are we getting stuff turned in? Are students showing fatigue? Are students in the things such as our breakout rooms working in order for you to break up a longer class period of time or not? And those conversations are happening K-12, and then they're happening at every level as well. One of the things that has been really great about the scheduling team is we have 3 middle school students who are on our scheduling committee, and all of them actually are in music during that afternoon time, and talked a little bit about the fact that, and they're not all in the same music or in the same school, so that's different. But they did talk about how some of them use that the little bit of time beyond band or choir, and some of them don't use it or can't get into that, and the extra time that takes them. They felt that because the middle school schedule is adjusted the way that it is, they felt they were spending less time overall on the screen than if the middle school day was longer. So I hear what you're saying, Shannon, I understand the 7:00 p.m. piece. That's ridiculous for us to have any kids on till 7:00 p.m. from 8:00 in the morning, 8:45 in the morning. But what they did talk about was that they appreciated having their classes all in the morning and then having a protected afternoon time where they could have band, music, or choir. And for some of them, they are actually going in for academic supports as well. So I'd be interested in better understanding kind of the details, right? Where your child is in middle school and then what those barriers are to getting that extra time to work. Because it's not going to be the same for every student. But one of the things we also know is it's not the exact same at any of our levels. We don't have all the schools implementing in exactly the same way. So you may be seeing kind of a difference in your schedule than what those 3 kids that are on the team were experiencing.
And the further questions I would have is the amount of work that's being asked to be done during that asynchronous time for each of the classes, like what, because that
It's
might
part of
be to
it's
look at.
part of why we're asking those surveys of students as well. So are you finding that you have too much work to do? Are you finding that you are on the TV, on the screen for more time than what are you getting headaches? Those kinds of questions. And you'll get those too as parents. Um, so hopefully we'll be able to see patterns in this a little bit more, but I would like to learn more about it. Shannon, maybe at the end of the call, you could stay on and just let us know a little more information. Okay.
So Sarah says, our elementary school has now made an hour on Wednesdays for students to talk about stuff, but once a week is not nearly enough. And then another thing is I think they feel shy sometimes. They sort of need starter questions to get them going, maybe a show and tell or something. I really feel like they need 10 to 15 minutes per day of social time. Yep. Absolutely.
Definitely a part of, again, of what our scheduling teams have prioritized too in their conversations is this exact time, as Lisa was talking earlier. Our education assistants have talked specifically about your idea there around show and tell. Can we run some show and tell times during the school day where education assistants could be the facilitators and kids could come in and just be having conversation. We agree that prompts are really needed. We also see that not only in the little kids, but in our older students as well. Oftentimes, if you have an older student and you have seen your student in a breakout room not speaking, in a breakout room that also is filled with other children who are not speaking, I would have you give a little thumbs up, give that little thumbs up. We have definitely heard that experience quite a bit. And so we are trying to figure out some strategies to help kids get over that hump of having conversations with each other when they're in the breakout.
Okay. Next up, it says, with younger elementary students, it can be hard to have them able to go through the entire class every day. I worry about privacy, but if we could have the teachers recorded Zoom videos, it would make a difference in getting my child caught up later. Both the teacher and my principal tried to do this, but couldn't get it to work. So I have a couple of really good things. One, recently teachers, so if teachers were working on a Chromebook before, it was difficult to record and keep that recording. So all of our teachers have gotten issued laptops now that are just better, more powerful to be able to do that. The one thing I will say that's really difficult with young children, kinder for a second, a lot of times what they're trying to do is they need to be able to see them. So they'll like read something aloud or they'll have students repeat, or when we're working on like math concepts or even one-to-one correspondence, you need to be able to see kids and kind of what they're doing and the way their mouth is moving and if they're able to repeat. And so sometimes it's hard. That's kind of hard because you might be able to watch a lesson with your student, but obviously you're not going to get, or the teacher's not going to get the feedback to be able to see if they're struggling with something, is struggling with reading or rhyming or things like that. But I think part of it is a technological issue, and part of it really is the age of the students and kind of what's necessary to make sure that they're progressing or moving along. And so we will keep trying because I think we have some of that figured out now, and that should be easier.
So yeah, just to double check, Lisa. So are those recordings now accessible as far as
Well,
we
so I want to say just last week, I feel like days are weeks and weeks are years. So sometimes my time is off, but I think just last week, all of the laptops were issued to teachers. And so they are kind of, have been transitioning over this week. And so I think they all should be able to record now more easily and certainly make recordings available. I will say that some lessons, especially with very young kids, don't really lend themselves to a recording like it would if, you were doing a call and response, for example.
So Chelsea asks, since teachers are working from home, there have been so many issues with Zoom glitching and disconnecting this week. How is the district going to ensure that teachers have the proper bandwidth and speed to support Zoom in their homes since they cannot work from school? Teachers literally cannot do their job if their home internet is not sufficient, and I don't think they should have to foot that extra bill. In our household, we have up to 11 people live streaming at once with no issues because we have the highest Comcast internet, but it's expensive. True.
Yeah, so a few things. One, we have hotspots that I think we got one shipment today and the next is tomorrow, but that are available for staff. And we actually have a list of staff that need it because their internet just is spotty because maybe they live more rurally or because they need kind of the extra boost because it's being used at their home. So we have enough hotspots for teachers who need it and who have requested in some extra. And I imagine that we'll probably still have the need as the year goes on and things change. Um, I also know that there are some instances, and we have some staff that don't have the internet at all. And there have been some exceptions for staff to work at school if they have a living situation that, you know, just requires that they be able to do that. And so that's kind of how we've been handling that situation in terms of working from home or at school. Nicole also writes that we have teachers that don't post recordings as well. So it's a good reminder for me to just touch bases with administrators, to touch bases with teachers about recording and where those are available for folks.
So Jennifer states AOL students are facing the same challenges of not having social interaction because they don't even see students to chat about schoolwork. Could AOL work on something to help bring students together? And Cheryl from AOL responds, AOL is talking about this already. Stay tuned. So thank you, Cheryl. Sarah, another thing is that most of the apps on Clever, the children cannot even use. They try to use the educational games or sites on Clever off of school time, but everything is blocked off there, is blocked off, sorry. There are so many filters, they can hardly use anything educational that would support them, even educational sites like Google Translate, dictionary.com, etc. So
Sarah, if there are specific things that you think are blocked, because most everything on Clever, and maybe it's because it's timed out, the apps that are on Clever, children should be able to use. And if there are specific sites or specific things that are filtered, I would say to email your administrator, hey, these things are depending on the grade level. So we have a different level of filter depending on the grade level of students. Obviously, some of the things that you're describing aren't necessarily filtered out for high school students. And we have certain sites that would be filtered depending on the age level. But if that's something that you're running into or you think is a mistake or that needs to be looked at again, please email your principal who can get it to IT so that we can take a look at it. But I do know our filters are set based on age.
And Sarah, we will ask that question about the apps on Clever timing out, as Lisa was saying. I think I remember recently, actually, it might have been in our last forum, hearing that some of those apps were not working in the evenings. And so we'll follow up on that. And I'm circling all the things to communicate back out with you guys via the superintendent's update in a couple weeks. Chelsea, I wanted to thank you for moving the lunch routes earlier. Our bus driver said there have been a lot more kids getting lunches now that the time is better. I'm so glad so many more students are being served. That is awesome news. Thank you so much for sharing that. I really appreciate you giving us that feedback. And I just want to say thank you to Kathy, who's in charge of nutrition services for us. She has organized that so the food can go out, and then our drivers, Russ Buttram, and our bus drivers have made sure that those get delivered. So thank you. Melissa asked, I just got to join. Sorry if this was already asked, but will Chromebooks be swapped out for Chrome pads for K1 kiddos? Yes, they will. They just have not yet arrived. Did we get any more news in the last 48 hours, Lisa, regarding shipments for the Chrome pads? Because I had not heard anything as of 48 hours ago. So we are still waiting on those to arrive. And that's just simply the technology itself is not available. There's just a huge delay because of COVID. Bennett, I have a kid at South Shore and another at Sunrise. This is for you, Lisa. Not because of the question, just it's your turn. Because South Shore is not on the same schedule as the rest of the district, we only have a 30-minute crossover for lunch, and we are unable to get the school-provided lunch except on Wednesdays.
This is a great question because one of the things the scheduling committee is looking at is how to, not only for South Shore and Sunrise, but how to get the lunch times more overlapping for K-12. And certainly for elementary school. We know that the lunch bus delivery routes span like an hour and 45 minutes. So obviously lunches aren't an hour and 45 minutes, but we're trying to get the lunches to overlap by level because we know families have kids at either several sites or several different levels, and with enough time to be able to get to a site to get lunch. So Bennett, thank you for bringing that up, and we are working on it for sure. And we see a kid's face on the screen because they're with their parent, and that is so fun because we don't get to see that enough. So thank you for having your kiddos join us. That's super fun. So Sarah says, we never got our Clever badge. Will we get that? Yes, you should have already. Would that help us log on to the apps? Yes, on Clever. It's so hard to find educational resources that don't cost money every month. So Sarah, reach out to your teacher and or your principal because yes, you should have a Clever badge already. So
Chelsea, do not apologize. She says sorry for all the questions, but no, that's why we have the forum. So ask questions. No one be shy about it. She appreciates the forums. What I find frustrating as a parent is not getting accurate information. The grades from Canvas and Pinnacle are completely different. Oh, I'm so glad you're asking this question. I was told that Pinnacle takes the info from Canvas and is the official grade, but how long does that take? One of my kids has a D in Pinnacle and an A in Canvas in several of her classes for the past week. And then this morning, one of my other kids' grades completely disappeared from Canvas. Wow, that would be upsetting to me too. And Lisa has it.
okay, so Pinnacle is the system that we have always had and use that takes the information to make our report cards that get sent to the ESD in the state. Like that's the official kind of system that pulls information to transcribe grades. We, in terms of a learning management system, went to Canvas so that we could all have the same system, that every school wasn't choosing their own, and that you can see the assignments and you can see what you scored on those assignments. That was part of the frustration with Google Classroom, is that if you had kids that used it before, you could see kind of what the assignments were, but you didn't necessarily know what they got on them or anything like that. So Canvas and Pinnacle do talk. And it originally, there was some technological, I don't know, mistranslation. They were having trouble getting it to kind of sync up. It does completely, but there is a couple of things. One, as a teacher, when I get on and use Canvas for the assignments, I can choose whether or not to sync an assignment to Pinnacle or not. So part of it is this. Part of it is, you know what? I want to make sure they do these bell ringers and math every day, right? So when they come in, they're doing some work and I'll tell them, give them feedback how they did, but it might not, count towards their official grade. So maybe I don't want that to sync to Pinnacle. In my experience, because I have a child, we're doing the same thing, right? You look on Canvas, it says one thing, you look on Pinnacle, it says another. In my experience, it literally is just going in and teachers syncing. It's literally a button that you click to sync the assignment or the test or whatever it is in Canvas to Pinnacle. And so, yes, it's true. The official grades come from Pinnacle because that's how report cards are printed and that's how grades are transcribed. And those two things, for the most part, should match. But teachers can choose to say, you know what, I have them do this one thing for 1 point every day, and I'm not going to sync that. It's just part of me keeping track to see if they've done it. But it is, and I hate that it's called syncing, because when I hear the word sync, I think that means the two programs aren't talking to each other. So people are like, it's a syncing issue. And I'm like, oh my gosh, what do we need to do? It literally is, as a teacher in Canvas, I can decide which assignments go over and kind of count in Pinnacle. So most of the time that is what the issue is. It's not that Pinnacle and Canvas don't talk to each other. It's not that we want to confuse people by having two different grades.
I'll give a pro tip that I just learned earlier today on that topic, and then we'll go on. I'm also going to skip, guys, I'm going to be skipping questions that I think we've already answered because I see we've got a lot of new messages coming in. I want to make sure to get through as much as we can. But pro tip is use Pinnacle to see what your child's most accurate grade is. use Canvas with your child, have your child show you in Canvas the work that they're doing. So use Canvas for your child to show you the work that they're doing and their assignments. Use Pinnacle to see their grade. Okay, so from Nicole, speaking of schedules, at the middle school level, I am concerned about the students not having core classes every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. There is an opportunity to reconsider the middle school day and start earlier. 8:45 a.m. feels late for middle schoolers. To add a class in the morning and adding one class in the afternoon to enable our students to have core, math, language arts, science, social studies, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. And Nicole, your schedule was shared with that middle school team and they discussed that this week. And part of what they they were concerned about with that schedule is that students who had advanced mathematics would not be able to take band, choir, or music if they were in advanced math every day because of the way that the schedule would work out. There were some pieces that were of concern both to students but also to staff around the size of classes that would end up resulting from that approach because right now teachers are teaching two sections. They're teaching opposite sections. So if I'm teaching English, I'm teaching an English class on Monday, Wednesday, or Monday, Thursday, and then another one on Tuesday, Friday during that same first period. But if I'm teaching English, then every day, Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, then my class sizes have to go up or we need to hire more teachers in order to teach. And so there are some complexities with that schedule change and there are quite a few more of those that were brought up in that group, but they definitely have looked at that schedule and are and have had conversations around it so far. So Ashlyn, I have the opposite problem as a previous comment. My kiddo is an avid and is still out and essentially done with all school at about 1 p.m. and rarely has homework. The amount of time they are in or doing anything school related is very low. Will their workload or time in school increase, especially since both elementary and high school seems to spend a lot more time getting instruction with the extended distance learning? Will they be increasing to have core classes at least daily? And again, I think that that's part of what the scheduling team is looking at. It's also part of what we're looking at to try and make sure that we get the rigor right for kids. We are trying to check that same check around students from all different experiences within all different grade levels and see what that rigor looks like and whether or not that asynchronous time has enough challenge in it for students. All right.
You know, it's interesting. I was scrolling through. I know you're in a spot. So several more comments about the middle school schedule and then more comments about this middle school schedule. And this is the perfect example of the scheduling team and kind of what they face, right? So how do you have a schedule that meets everybody's needs and what everybody thinks is enough and or prudent, right? So we have some folks that say the afternoon time for office hours in the afternoon is critical. My child will not ask a question in class, but in the afternoon when they start doing their work, they can check in with all of their teachers, kind of do what they need to do. So less of that time would be detrimental. We have other folks who say middle schoolers aren't doing, kind of aren't doing school enough or long enough for content every day. Others who say it's too much. By the time my student finishes the homework, it's late into the night and I worry about the amount of screen time that students have. And I think that is probably true at all three levels, right? We hear the concern about screen time for sure, for all K-12 kids. And then on the other hand, also hear the concern of the level of rigor and the amount of time with teachers and learning. And in this environment, with the way things are right now, it's a really difficult balance. And one of the things I know, Melissa is, always so optimistic about like, can we strike the perfect balance, which I appreciate. And sometimes I think I tend to be I would say more realistic. Others might say pessimistic. When I say I don't know that we will have a strike a perfect balance for a schedule that will please kind of everybody and meet everybody's needs. And I think even looking at it at all levels in the scheduling committee has been great. And I still think we will all come out with a product for all 3 levels that might be slightly adjusted or changed, and it still won't be perfect because there are just so many factors and needs around what that looks like.
Lisa, I'm going to have you look through. I'm going to, just to Lisa's point, an example of that not one schedule fits all needs, that just the feedback on the proposed schedule that some of you have talked about in here was larger class sizes, which I talked about, more homework, too early because it would start so much earlier. There would be a loss overall of 2 classes, meaning that students would largely have only core classes. There would be a loss of homework help. There would be, for kids in algebra, they would not be able to take choir or band. They felt the design is one for middle of the road students, is how they put it. The kids said that it's designed for middle of the road students. Kids who need help wouldn't get it, and those of us who want to do advanced work don't have time to do it. And then this is a kid too. 11 o'clock is just too early for lunch. And I know some of you have kids who currently have lunches earlier than that. So I just think that's so funny. You just never have one schedule that's going to fit the needs of all. And we're continuing to vet it. So, all right, we have a whole bunch more questions. So now we're going to play a bit of speed round, Lisa, because we don't have very much time left. I want to get through as much as we can.
I'm going to kind of summarize. So just, the continued concern of if you don't have core content every day, how far behind will kids be? And I think that is also a concern at the high school because like my high schooler will only get math, doesn't have math right now at all, or actually English. So we'll get that then for a quarter, then not have it again. And so part of the reason the middle school went to the schedule that they did was so that they would have math all year long. So I think there were some trade-offs. We have so more kind of back and forth about some things for Clever, some things for elementary age students. Stacy Lee is the curriculum coordinator for the district, and she has gone in the chat to just give resources around different things that you can check out in terms of Scholastic, different programs that we have. So check out the chat for some of those for the elementary aged folks. And then there was a question about chatting about the governor's possibly new metrics. If there's any word on that, or do we know what that will look like?
Yeah, so the governor had an announcement earlier this week about everybody who is working indoors needs to wear masks. That was followed by the next day an announcement that she is actually going to pick up the work around the school metrics, and she started that conversation 2 weeks ago. She and the head of the Department of Education are putting together a task force to hopefully make some decisions relatively quickly on that. I was contacted last night by the head of the Department of Education to serve on the small superintendents group that he's going to be meeting with. So those meetings, I know that meeting's next week on my calendar. So we should know more then. And so that my hope is that the metrics that are currently in place that say 10 per 100,000 as the threshold for 4th through 12th graders to start back to school. I am advocating that the governor raise that number to be higher so that we reach that number more quickly. I think that 10 per 100,000 is probably too low for us to be able to meet it anytime soon. We are so far in Lynn County in particular outside of the realm of that also in Benton County, depending on which week it is. Next.
So we'll hear more, but we haven't yet. We think it will raise, but by how much, I don't know.
We don't know.
Another question about, since it appears, and there was another comment similar to this earlier, since it appears that virtual learning is going to be longer than anyone had hoped for, or even imagined, I can't imagine my March self understanding that was going to be how the world worked right now. Has there been any consideration given to moving the teacher prep day from Wednesdays to Fridays or Mondays? For our youngest, the midweek disruption in routine is less than helpful.
Mm. I appreciate that. And that's something for our scheduling team to discuss. We have not discussed that. Frankly, we didn't want to contribute to encouraging 3-day weekends and holiday plans. Just we want to make sure that all our kids are coming back on Monday healthy and not feeling well. So easy to access. One of the things we're keeping in mind is when we go to a hybrid schedule, wanting to think about if we needed a day in the middle of the week because we had a cohort that came back positive. We'd like to have that day in the middle of the week. That means that we have no more than 2 days of school in between a down day where we can do cleaning if we need to, and that helps us tremendously with cleaning once kids are back in school. My son's grades have disappeared from Canvas. Will that be resolved? It will, because I guarantee your son's teacher is flipping out right now. So it will definitely get resolved. I do not know how quickly because I don't know specifically what happened there. There's a comment about Canvas and the difficulties with the parent app. Again, what we have heard is working best is to have your student show you their Canvas through their Chromebook. That tends to be the fewest amount of problems with Canvas. This is speed. I don't give a lot of info, Lisa, like my own experience. Just go. Oh.
I do think I have the Canvas app. You have to go into your child's first to give you permission to be kind of a viewer or an observer, it's called. It does work, but it is easier to just sit there and tell my kid to log in and look at his. We had a question that says, will you advocate for a higher threshold for K-3 kids too?
It'll depend what the data is that they share with us. So not at this point, I'm not comfortable. I don't know enough information. I just am, I definitely feel that the distance between the 4th through 12th grade and the K3 one is too far. Just to remind you, the K3 is only for an exception to the rule. That isn't the rule. So what we really want is clarity around when can kids get back to school and what can that look like.
And then somebody said, I appreciate actually the Wednesday break. I need a chill day to look forward to my kids' virtual school for the next day. So I get it. And again, as many people hate the midday break, there are people who like it. Somebody said they agree. If we choose to use Albany Online during this time, will we be able to switch out kids back to on campus in the event that they do go back on site?
Yeah, we are actually though looking at doing that at the quarter breaks because Albany Online goes at their own pace, and kids are going at their, I'm sorry, I saw people laughing and I got distracted because I wanted to know what people are laughing at. So Albany Online kids go at their own pace with Albany Online. So it's really difficult to sync up their learning at exactly the right timing. We really are looking at the quarter breaks to make those changes. But yes, you can.
Especially, I would say for high school students who are earning credits in classes, I would just make certain that it's not in the middle of a grading period. Amber, thank you. That was great comic relief. But so Amber is saying what she heard was that the teacher shut or, the campus
goodness
down, but the first could be true too, because it was confusing people. So I'll double check on that. And it could be that they're like, let's hold off. I need to make sure everybody understands that this is how you sync, but just know that that's how the programs work together. And I will write that down to check about them shutting the grades down on Canvas. Barbara said she heard that also. So now she's confused if it'll be turned back on or not. Mm-hmm. And so Ashlyn says, just to be on the same page for middle schools, the high school students do 80-minute classes for 4 periods daily. Elementary school goes approximately 8 to 2:15, incorporating sync and async, but middle school has three approximately 50-minute classes. They actually only go from 9 to 11:40 unless in music or avid. When do you think we can expect an updated schedule? So again, Ashlyn, the scheduling team is meeting and they're going to determine kind of what that looks like. When we actually calculate the instructional minutes for elementary and middle school has more instructional minutes than elementary school does currently. Because elementary school, when you're incorporating the asynchronous and synchronous time, if you would do the same thing with the middle school, actually middle school comes out ahead. So I hear the frustration and the dissatisfaction with the middle school schedules, certainly from folks tonight and from others for sure. And I also know that that there are people who are equally as passionate on the other side around why the schedule either is working or actually needs to be adjusted because it's too much. So trying to strike that right balance.
The new schedules will start November 16th. I think one of the questions was when we'll be here. So the hope of the scheduling team is that next Wednesday we will be looking at kind of the final draft. Is that right? Is that next Wednesday?
Proposals, yep.
And about a week after that, the final schedules will be ready to be announced. So you will be hearing about the new schedules 2 weeks before they go, about 2 weeks before they go into implementation.
So Nicole, oh, hold on, I need to scroll. Nicole says, just a quick note about the middle school start time. My recommendation to add one class in the morning was to start at 8:15. If the students were going in person, I think that used to start at 7:40 or 7:50. So just so you know, actually all of the middle schools have a different start time. So some of them started at 9 before, some of them started earlier. It depended on the bus route. So even the start time now that it's the same, that means it has been different because they have never been the same. Schedules haven't been before. So 8:15 is reasonable, she says. The breaks could be reduced to 15 minutes instead of 20 minutes, which enables the morning classes to all complete at 11:40, just as it is today. And then Shannon gets on and says, but it would be nice if the middle school would follow more like the high school with async happening during the same period as synchronous. If we could have more of a regular bell schedule for middle school, wouldn't that not alleviate the issue with advanced math and music? And then Jen says, I agree with Nicole. So interestingly enough, the thing that the high school is looking at and changing their schedule, and I would say actually elementary school as well, but the high school is looking at office hours in the afternoon and adjusting their schedules. So the length of time in a class would be shorter, but to allow for an hour in the afternoon of office hours for kids to seek individual help. And so I would just tell you that the feedback that we're getting from many parents, students, and staff is actually for the high school schedule to more mimic the middle school schedule to allow students time to be able to get the help that they need. Don't feel like that time is available now.
One of the pieces with distance learning as we went into designing for the school year that we were really warned against by experts within the field, particularly the New Teachers Project, which is a research-based nonprofit that works all over the country with distance learning, hybrid learning, and in-person learning, was to try to create the same schedule that you have within the brick and mortar school for distance learning, because that schedule design was not created for this model of teaching and learning. And even though they very strongly warned us about the potential outcomes from that model, we had different people kind of enter from different places. So when we look at the high school schedule that kids have been working on, I will tell you that our it is a schedule that teachers and students have expressed a great deal of concern about, because the compression of time that has happened, the compressing the time from a semester to a quarter for students to learn all of that content in a quarter is unrealistic for both students and for staff to be able to teach them. Our two board members, school board members, student school board members, who are from South and West Albany High School and very good students, they both expressed huge dismay at the current construction of the schedule because each night they may be getting 8 assignments because their teachers are feeling the need to get all of the curriculum covered. And to do that, they're assigning 2 assignments in each course every night. So that means 8 homework assignments for students each night. And they're not small homework assignments because they're high school. Similarly, if students are on, oh, hi there, I see another kid. Hi there, kiddo. If students are in an AP course or if they are in any sort of college prep course, those courses also are designed to be year-long courses. And so taking even a semester of those in-depth college level courses and cramming them into a quarter, teachers are finding them that it's not a sustainable pace. So we are trying to learn from what we were told from experts, and not be surprised that we're currently in a situation where we're discovering that this distance learning model does in fact need to look different than the brick and mortar situation. And sometimes it goes completely against what our own instincts would be, such as you need to have language arts every single day. As an English teacher, I would advocate for that as a middle school and high school English teacher, that because that's what I've known and what I've always been a part of. But what students are reporting is if the asynchronous work is meaningful and if their assignments are meaningful, then the frequency with which the course is meeting is not as meaningful. So we're still learning. All of that information is going into the scheduling team's backpacks as well. All right. I don't know where we are, Lisa, because I'm
trying to get there. It's a Lynn says special education families could use more support. And then someone afterwards said, I agree, Lynn. So one of the things I typed in the chat was a few things. One, we had a special education parent forum last night with specific strategies to help parents who are supporting their students at home during this kind of learning environment. And so what are some of the things that we would do at school and how do we help parents do that? As part of that, they had just during the forum surveyed parents around different kind of topics and ideas for support. And so they plan to continue those forums. So one of them, for example, was parents of students with autism and what are some ways that they can support them at home. And one was, parents of students who have ADHD and what are specific strategies that parents could use. So different topic forums. And then also, I know that staff is working on looking at the limited in-person and what might that look like to bring in smaller groups of students who need more support, maybe because they are on an IEP or maybe not, maybe because they just need extra support in those small cohorts of under 10 for less than 2 hours, which would meet the rules for limited in-person. So if there's something specific that you feel like you need help with, please don't hesitate to reach out and know that we've heard that for special education parents and that we're trying to just kind of support in different ways that folks would need.
I think we're just about caught up and we're at the end of our time. But so Shannon and Barbara both said something to that said their kids are finished super early, so they're surprised other kids would have so much more work. So that was kind of puzzling. And then we had Chelsea say, all my kids love Wednesdays. I hope that doesn't change. My middle schooler likes the schedule the way it is. And I know my high schooler would appreciate a new schedule like the middle school's doing. That's exciting. They're considering it. Andrea said, I agree, Chelsea. Andrew posted a bunch of our at-home learning support videos, so please feel free to get on there. It's posted as a playlist on YouTube, so that's what that link is. And Amber said that she hasn't yet seen small groups meeting in the afternoon, so that would be something that, Amber, that I would ask that you talk to your school principal because that would be dependent upon your school.
I know we do have small groups meeting in the afternoon, but in terms of who's in those small groups and kind of what that looks like, I know that's different by need and by school, and so it might not include your student.
Sharon asks if the special education form is available online. That's I don't know that it will be, and here's part of the challenge. Sometimes special education parents are asking questions specific to their own student and their students' learning needs. I don't know what parameters the director put into place when the meeting began.
I will check. Actually, we spoke today. I'll check with him, and I think they recorded it and can get that out to special education parents, but I wasn't sure if they were going to just post it on the
Oh,
web.
and Andrew said, yep, it will be posted on the GAPS YouTube page as well. Thank you, Andrew. Lynn says, thank you for listening and communicating and trying to answer our questions. I appreciate it. Shannon says, I appreciate everything y'all are doing for our kiddos. This can't be easy. Thanks, you guys. Thank you, Melissa and Lisa. Your willingness to engage with parents in the way you have is so appreciated. Thank you. That was from Ken and Melissa Turk. And Sharon said, thank you. Thank you guys. Really, really appreciate it. I know that it's at the end of a long day where you've probably been helping a child with homework. So thank you very much. We know that this is hard on you. We know that your kids have their ups and downs, and we appreciate your willingness to just continue to engage with us in this and continue to give us honest feedback. That survey will be sent out to you probably Tuesday night, maybe Wednesday morning, but definitely something that you can fill out on Wednesday. And thank you for your time and your honest feedback. It helps us do better for sure. And we'll look up some of those things.
Hang in there, everyone. Hang in there. I know it's tough all the way around. Nobody has a monopoly on hard right now. I know it's hard for kids and parents and staff for sure. So hang in there.
And then Shannon, I'm staying on just because when I look at you, I remember I told you stay on till the end. So you were going to tell me something more. I just don't know what